Beyond trauma informed, the leadership gap that no one's talking about. Welcome back to Rise Up Voices from the Frontlines. Today is a Rise Up Coaching Academy episode, and I'm your co-host, Krista Fee. Today I'm going to ruffle a few feathers inside the professional world of trauma care, coaching, peer support, and leadership. Normally, I'm pretty cautious about taking polarizing stands, but in this case, I don't budge on the level of accountability and integrity that I believe we're all responsible for upholding. We are talking about what's missing behind the phrase trauma-informed. Because while a lot of people are proudly wearing that badge, we're seeing cracks in the foundation, and the people being served, many of them are still falling through those cracks. So let's get tactical. What is the problem with trauma-informed labels? Trauma-informed has become the professional equivalent of organic at the grocery store. It sounds good, it signals safety, but depending on who you ask, it can mean a dozen different things, and in a lot of rooms, it really doesn't mean anything. In the unregulated world of coaching, this can be a really dangerous situation. I've sat across from leaders, coaches, therapists, school staff, even peer support teams who can rattle off the clinical language. They know about ACEs. They can explain the polyvagal ladder. They've attended workshops. They've read Bessel van der Kolk. But then you watch them sit across from someone actually dysregulated and all their bluff and bluster collapses because knowing about trauma is not the same as being able to lead inside of trauma. You can't stabilize what you can't embody. You can't co-regulate what you don't understand inside your own nervous system. So let's talk a little bit about what applied trauma leadership looks like in practice. Inside the Rise Up Coaching Academy, we train it deeply because, well, here's a brutal reality. So many of you are unhealed, unhealthy, self-proclaimed healers, hoping to avoid doing your own work by focusing on helping others. And you are dangerous. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. You will be in rooms where people are emotionally flooded. You will work with clients who escalate suddenly. You will hit moments where your own nervous system wants to shut down, avoid, freeze, or attack. And if you don't know how to track your own physiology while tracking theirs, you will become a source of instability for your client, even when you have the best of intentions. That's why applied trauma leadership includes some really important things. Nervous system literacy. Can you read dysregulation in real time? Co-regulation tools. Can you help the client stabilize without shutting down the work? Language calibration. Can you communicate in ways that de-escalate rather than trigger? Attachment and parts awareness. Can you sense when someone's protector parts are engaging? Self-leadership. Can you lead your own nervous system while leading theirs? These are not just clinical skills, they're leadership skills. And frankly, most programs don't teach them, and most so-called coaches are too lazy or egotistical to bother learning them. And I'm going to say something brutal, but honest. You don't know what you don't know. And if you aren't continually growing, learning, and applying the tools and skills of this trade, you are doing a disservice to yourself and every single one of your future clients. And if you feel like I'm attacking you, then you're definitely the one who needs to hear this. There is a massive amount of damage being done that can have lifelong or life and death consequences. So let's talk about why this matters right now and why I'm obviously so passionate about it. Let's be very clear. It is first and foremost absolutely imperative you know the ethics and scope of practice of your role. And the people that we're serving are coming to us in crisis states far more often than they were even 5 years ago. Teachers are dealing with traumatized kids. Peer support teams are facing responders and military carrying complex trauma loads. Therapists are flooded with clients that are beyond their capacity. Coaches are stepping into spaces where trauma walks in with every single client, even when that's not the advertised problem. No matter how hard you try to say you don't work with trauma, it's likely to come out even on those of you who are just business coaches. The emotional and nervous system load inside these relationships is heavy. And if we're not properly trained, we will unconsciously re-traumatize the very people we're trying to help. I recently spoke to a coach who was working far outside her scope of practice. She had a client she knew was in the midst of a suicide risk scenario. She did not have a system in place to handle this situation, didn't have a referral network, transitional resources, and the know-how to properly remediate the risks, and the client completed. Now, I'm not going to say the client's suicide was her fault. She certainly didn't take responsibility for her failures in the situation. She literally said, you can't save them all, and it's not my responsibility to stop someone from doing something they're going to do anyway. It actually gets more horrific. She literally laughed it off and said, not my circus, not my monkeys. Dark humor is frequently a coping mechanism in highly traumatic moments. There are no guarantees that the situation would have gone differently had she had the skills to handle it more ethically. I am saying, however, that we lost the opportunity to find out, and a life ended. Many of you will never have to face a life and death situation, but many of you will. And it happens when you least expect it. Anyone working as a coach or guide in any capacity might experience this and must be prepared for this level of dysregulation. This is why I say trauma-informed isn't the goal. Applied trauma leadership must become standard. So where do you stand? Here's a gut check for any of you who serve, lead, coach, or guide others. Can you feel when your own nervous system shifts? Do you know how to stabilize someone when they escalate without freezing or over-accommodating? Do you know best practices? Do you have a support system in place? Do you know your referral and emergency partners? Can you tell the difference between a client's protector parts and their core self? Are you actively tracking your own reactivity or simply powering through tough sessions? If you can't answer these questions confidently, it doesn't mean that you're a bad coach or that you're failing. It means you haven't been given or you haven't received the full training that you and your clients deserve. And that's exactly why the RISEUP Coaching Academy exists. At RISEUP, we don't hand out trauma-informed certificates like participation trophies. We train applied trauma leaders, practitioners who can actually stand in the fire with their clients and hold ground when it matters most. If you're ready to step into this level of leadership, I invite you to schedule a private call with me. Let's talk about where you're at, where your skill set needs to grow, and how we can support your next level of leadership. Just click the link either above or below in the show description, depending on what's your favorite podcast platform. And yes, the consult is free because you serve others, and now it's time that someone serves you. That's it for today, my friends. If this resonates with you, share it with someone you know is carrying the weight of leadership inside trauma spaces. This is RISEUP Voices from the Frontlines, and I'm Krista Fee, and I'll see you on the next round.